Who's never been here before? Please raise your hand. Raise your hand high. Not very many. After you listen to the Dharma talk, you have to practice. If you only just listen without practicing, it is no use. Luangpor met one person. He told Luangpor that every day when he couldn't sleep, Luangpor's talk helped him sleep well. That was the first for Luangpor to hear that. To be awakened, that is something that we need to practice. Many people in the world are stuck, sleeping. Only the body is awake, but the mind is not awakened. It is actually not that difficult. Be aware of your body and the mind. Don't let the mind get lost in the defilement. Then the mind will be awakened. But many of you do not want to be awakened. In the past 30, 40 years, Luangpor visited many places, and he found that many of them are not, although they were practicing, but they were not awakened. The mind were too stressed. When they did the sitting meditation, they tried to control their body and the mind. If it's too stressful, it's torturing yourself. It's not beneficial for anyone. Luangpor and his friends, about 10 of them who practiced together, one time they visited one master together. That master's mind was very fast. He was very surprised to see 10 awakened people at the same time. He said, there are so many, because most of the people back then, they were not awakened, although they practiced, but they are not awakened. When they are sitting, they are dreaming about practicing or trying to control too much. The mind is not truly awakened. How to wake the mind? When you sleep at night, when you are dreaming, when you're realizing that you are sleeping, oh, I'm dreaming, then when you know that you are dreaming, then you'll be awakened. So every time you see that you are dreaming, your mind will be awakened. But we are not only dreaming only when we're sleeping. When our body is awakened, we actually still sleeping. During the day, it is like daydreaming. At night is actual dream. Every time when you realize that your mind is dreaming, you will be awakened. The mind will return to the actual world. Dreaming and thinking are the same. When you're thinking, when you sleep, it is called dream. When you're thinking, when the body is awake, it's called thinking. There are many Thai words to name those terms. During the day, it is called daydreaming. Every time you are lost in the thoughts, in the dreams, the mind will be awakening automatically. It's not that difficult. But most of you do not know. If you know, it's not that difficult to be awakened. You don't know that sometimes that you are dreaming, although that your eyes are open. It is not difficult to realize that you are dreaming. Luangpor often say it's not that difficult because it was not difficult for Luangpor. But when Luangpor see the students, it is hard for the students because the students do not practice all the time. Luangpor say to the monks who are staying at the temple that you haven't practiced much, comparing the list to Luangpor when Luangpor was a layperson. To awake yourself up is to practice and stay with the object of your choosing. You can use Buddho, you can observe your body, you can observe your stomach rise and fall, you can observe the body moving, your body stopping. Like Luangpor Tien style, you can move your hands, move and stop, move and stop. When you see the body is moving, the body is stopping. So first to start is to practice with the object that you preferred. We are not practicing to feel calm, to get peace. The aim is to awake our minds, to see when the minds wander off to dream, to think. As soon as we realize that the mind is dreaming, is thinking, we'll be awakened. Just like when you're dreaming at night. When you realize that you're dreaming, you're like, oh, I was sleeping. Then you'll be awakened. So it's not that difficult to be awake. It's very natural. It's not too difficult. Just realizing it. So every time during the day when you know that the mind is wandering off to think, to dream, you see that, the mind is awakened. Luangpor's object is to use Buddho, breathing in put and breathing out to, because the Luangpor practices since he was little. But Luangpor Tien's method, his object was to move the hand. If the mind is not awakened, is not a knower, you cannot see the truth of the body and the mind. For you to see the truth, the mind has to be awakened. So practice with your preferred object. The aim is not to be a good person, to be better than anyone. The aim is to see that the mind is lost in thoughts, lost in the dream. Keep practicing. As first, practice with the objects. And every time the mind moved away from the objects to dream, to think, the mind is awakened often. And we come back to everyday life activities. The mind is not only lost in thoughts only, the mind is also lost in listening, in seeing, in tasting. There are 6 ways of sensation for the mind to get lost with. during everyday's life. See when the mind is lost, is moving away, keep practicing, and every time when the mind is lost, as soon as you see that, the mind is awakened. It is awakening automatically. Or if the mind is lost in watching something, in listening to something, as soon as you realize that, you see that, the mind is also awakened. In everyday life, the mind can lost in 6 different sensations. It is difficult to see that, to see in all 6. But in formal practice, there are limited sensations for you to feel, for the mind to get lost with. We decrease from 6 ways to get lost to 2 sensations. For example, when you're sitting, you can feel the body moving and the mind is thinking. During the formal practice, really decrease the channel for the mind to get lost, so it's easier to practice. Some of you refuse to do the formal practice, but even with the formal practice, you can't even practice that. To do in everyday's life, there's so many ways for the mind to get lost with. You can't see that. For you to be able to see the mind getting lost in everyday's life, it is very, very good to see that. It's like the formal practice is practice kickboxing, but in everyday's life is the real fight. So first, don't be careless. You have to practice formally. Years ago, Luangpor asked that everyone practice 15 minutes a day. But now Luangpor would like to ask that we practice longer, 20 to 30 minutes a day for the formal practice. And see every time when the mind moved away to think, you see that the mind is awakened, the noble mind will arise. When the mind is lost in the to see, to hear, to taste, when you see that, the knowing mind will arise. And the mind can lost in the mind. The mind can lost is wandering off in thoughts or over-focusing. And see that, and the mind also will be awakened. So when you are keen, more experienced from the formal practice, it will help you in practicing in daily life activities. It is very important to see that the mind is wandering off, the mind is lost. In Thai, it's called lóng lai. Lost, lóng is lost, lai is wandering off. Luangpor stressed like how to practice. First is to keep in the moral precept, the 5 precepts. Second is to practice formally every day. And thirdly is to practice in daily life activities. If you practice well formally, if you are experienced, it will help you in practicing in daily life activities. You can see when the mind wanders off easier. So for those who say that, I'm not going to do the formal practice, I will see myself during the daily life activities. Actually, you don't have enough energy or enough understanding to see when the mind wanders off during daily life activities. So keep practicing formally, at least 30 minutes a day. Keep practicing. This year is 2020, it's the end of 2020, and next year, Luangpor will ask more time for you to practice formally every day. When the mind practices correctly, the mind will be happy and the mind will not mind 30 minutes anymore. It will actually, longer time would be easier for the mind. Luangpor, when he practiced formally, breathing in put, breathing out toe, it was very enjoyable. He was awakened for a long time. So keep practicing formally every day. Use any object that you prefer. Luangpor do not recommend using the object outside your body and your mind. There was one master from the north. He passed away a while ago, and now that his temple became a tourist attraction. He used fire as the object for concentration. He feels that the energy, he can observe, he can see the fire clearly. He could smell the smoke by observing the candlelight. And then one day he thought that he could smell and he could feel the fire very clearly. But as soon as he opened his eyes, it turned out that the candle fell and his heart was on fire. So he stopped using fire as the object. To use the object outside, for example, to observe the wind, to observe the statue, to observe the fire. For example, when you observe the wind, every time the wind touches the nose, that is practice using the wind as an object. Using the objects outside the body, it is difficult to look inside your body and the mind. It may give you special abilities, but it doesn't let you see your own body and your mind. So Luangpor recommend that you use your own body and your mind. You can use the body moving, the body stopping, the body's breathing, or the mind's moving in, your body moving away. Luangpor, later on, he used his mind as an object. Every time the mind moves, he knew, and the mind is awakened, and the mind become more energized. Every time the mind see the mind's moving, the knower mind arise. There was a knower mind, and the object that the mind knows. Every time Luangpor observed the objects, there are different types of objects. There are 4 different types of objects. Some objects can be used to do samatha practice. For example, if an object is the rising and falling of the stomach, or to the breath, when the mind sees that, it's only samatha practice. Just to see the body moving, the rise and fall of the stomach. When the knower mind arises, then Vipassana can arise as well. So some object is only for samatha practice. Some object, it can also give rise to Vipassana. For example, to see the emotion arise if you're happy, if you're sad. And it can give rise to the 3 characteristics. For cultivating wisdom, you can practice from the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Some holy men can use Nibbana or Nirvana as an object to practice, but we cannot use that. Layperson cannot use that because we've never experienced Nirvana or Nibbana. So observe the thing that you have. Okay, everybody, try to see your natural mind. Can you see that you are sitting? Please raise your hand if you can see that you're sitting right now. Is it difficult to see that your hand is rising? It's not that difficult. It's very natural. Natural is best. See that you're sitting. How do you know that your body is sitting? Because there is the knower mind. The knower mind see that the body is sitting. You see that? Try nodding your head. Can you see that the body is moving, that the head is nodding? You don't have to force the body to nod, like slowly. You don't have to do that. Be a normal person. Don't be a robot. So very easily, when the mind is not lost in thoughts in the dream, see that the body is sitting, the body is standing, moving, walking, breathing in, breathing out. The body is moving, the body is stopping. Who's seeing that? The knower mind sees that. So noble mind see the subject. The noble mind see the objects. When the noble mind sees the object, there will be a separation between the noble mind and the object that the noble mind observes. And then we'll see that everything rise and then fall. For example, the body breathing in, and then that state falls. And then it changes to breathing out. So the body is displaying the three characteristics all the time. If you're sitting for a long time, the body will display the suffering. The suffering is within the body. If you observe that, if you're sitting for a long time, you see that the suffering that comes into the body is a separate thing from the body. The noble mind will see that the feeling, the sensation is not the same as the body. It's something that tainted inside the body. The happiness, anger, dissatisfaction that arises in the mind is also something that tainted in the mind. It's something that can be known, can be seen. So this is the same thing that it can be seen, can be observed by the noble mind. It's not us. Happiness, unhappiness, samadhi, restless mind, busy mind, or the phenomenon or the states. Everything that arises, they are all temporary. Every time you get angry, it's only temporary. When you love, it's only temporary. When you see that, when you practice, you will see that. For those who never practice, you'll be lost in this sensation, in this feeling, perception forever. But when you practice, you will see that it actually happens for the moment it arises and then it falls. You will be separated, lost from losing in the world of thoughts. You will see that happiness and unhappiness are something that it is known by the noble mind. It is not a mind. It is something that tainted inside the mind. Everything, even unwholesome, wholesomeness, unwholesomeness, everything is temporary. It rises and then falls. Our faith also temporarily is not permanent. Someday we feel that we are very faithful in Buddhism, someday not so much. So everything is impermanent. The medium Dharma, for example, such as Samadhi. Samadhi can be wholesome or unwholesome. A cat, when they want to catch a bird, they gotta have Samadhi. So Samadhi can be wholesome and unwholesome. we keep observing, and then we'll see that unwholesomeness, wholesomeness, they are all impermanent. And keep observing, you will see that everything is also non-self. When you have sati, you will see that everything is impermanent, suffering, and non-self. So after you observed it long enough, and then it will current back to the mind that the noble mind is actually impermanent. Overcome the lost mind, and the lost mind is also impermanent. The mind that is lost in thought is thinking. It keeps rising and falling. When the mind is a knower, the mind is a knower is very short. It will see that the mind is wandering off. When the noble mind arises, it will awaken us, and we'll see it will cut off the cycle of the mind losing in thoughts, in the dreams. So every time the noble mind arises, the mind that is lost will fall. Sometimes, if you don't practice, the mind is lost all day long, for such as 15 hours all day long. But every time that the noble mind arises, it will cut off the cycle. So the mind is lost less. So the more you practice, the duration of the mind getting lost is shorter. If you practice more enough, when the mind is started to move, then the noble mind will arise. The mind hasn't even moved away yet. The noble mind will arise. When the noble mind is apparent, we will see that everything, the mind, the body, everything is impermanent. Nothing is permanent. We see that everything that arises would fall. When you see that, you will become you can become the stream enterer. When one becomes the stream enterer, one will see that everything that rise, it will fall. All the states that rise, it also falls. The only thing that rise and the only thing that doesn't fall is Nibbana. So keep practicing. First, keep the 5 moral precepts. Second is to practice formally and see when the mind moved away, lost in thoughts. Every time you see that, the noble mind will arise. Keep practice until the noble mind arises often. And then practice during everyday's life. So in everyday's life, you will see that every time the mind is lost, you will see that the noble mind will arise. When the mind is lost in listening, when the mind sees that, the noble mind arises and the mind is lost would fall. When the noble mind arises, you will see that the mind is lost is shorter and shorter. This is how we cultivate wisdom. If we don't practice, our mind will be lost all day long. And there's no mind to cultivate the wisdom. From the text, this is called the greatest merit that you can do. In Pali, it's difficult to understand. But this is the greatest merit because the mind is not lost in defilement. It is light. It is equanimous. It is ready to work. That is the perfect mind. It is the wholesome mind. When the mind tries to interfere, the mind actually is lost. Every time you try to practice, you intentionally practice, you can feel that the mind has a little weight. It's heavy. That's not a wholesome mind. The wholesome mind is light, gentle, equanimous. If your mind is slow to work, that's not a wholesome mind. The right knower mind is ready to work. So we have to keep practicing until we get that mind. And you will see that everything that rises also falls. You will see that the body moving in and out, the body is moving, the happiness, the unhappiness, feeling neutral, everything is temporary. Everything that arises also falls. Even the mind also rises, it also falls. The mind arises at the eyes, at the ears. It's all temporary. It's all impermanent. So keep noticing it. The wholesome mind it is a good, noble mind. The noble mind is with the wisdom. A good noble mind is the mind that is wisdom. But the noble mind can be for samatha too, without wisdom too. But the good noble mind to be used to cultivate wisdom is the mind that is ready to work, the mind that is ready to consider, to observe yourself. And you do not need to force it to happen. You don't have to force yourself to feel. That cannot be used to cultivate wisdom. So the mind that is ready for wisdom cultivation is the mind that is ready to see the three characteristics. Is the mind that is not forced to happen. There are two types of noble mind. The noble mind that comes up with happiness or equanimous. The first type of noble mind that is full of wisdom, ready to work, equanimous. This type of mind is very good to cultivate wisdom. It is very wholesome. But as a noble mind that is only for knowing but not used to cultivate wisdom. It's okay if you don't understand right now. You can re-listening to the YouTube or read the passage again. You can read or watch whatever, or the clip with subtitle. Keep listening to the Dharma talk. It's difficult to understand right away. And after you understand, you have to practice. If you only listen and you understand, if you don't practice, you will forget. Homework time. Number 1. Number 1 is stuck in stillness and asking Luangpor to give him or her recommendation. Luangpor said that your mind is still, the mind is refusing to look at things in the 3 characteristics. If the mind doesn't like to see the 3 characteristics, you can help the mind with thinking. You can lead the mind with thoughts at the very beginning. Some think that perception is bad and want to abandon the perception, but we still need perception to cultivate wisdom. We can put in the right perception and teaches the mind at the very beginning. For example, that the body is impermanent, non-self, and suffering. You have the noble mind already, but the mind hasn't cultivated wisdom. That is a different level of the mind. So your mind is ready to cultivate wisdom, but it hasn't cultivated any wisdom, so you can lead the mind by telling it the 3 characteristics. Next, number 25. I have been practicing for about 2 years, but I still do not understand how to practice. Please recommend me the right way to practice. Luangpor replies, don't think too much. The more you think, the more you are confused. Stay in the present. Observe what's arising in front of you. For example, when you feel that you are angry, see that. And every day, do the formal practice. And don't try to keep your mind still when you practice. See when the mind wander off. See when the mind is busy. See when the mind is calm. Know it as it is. Keep practicing. And every time that you come into everyday's life, you can observe that everything that arises and falls naturally. Keep seeing the mind that is moving often. Next, number 45. I have been practicing for more than 3 years. This is the second time I report to you. Luangpor told me to observe the non-self. My mind do not have a lot of energy. Please give me some advice. Luangpor replied, you have to do more Samatha practice. Samatha such as breathing input, breathing out. Many monks practice this for years and years. One of the monks told me that the first year when he learned from the master only told him to do Buddho for the whole year. And the second year just told me to give me another instruction to be aware of my body. Your body do not have enough energy. Your body is regressing, so do more samatha. Layperson have many problems in the world. When you have problems, you're stressed out. So every time when you do samatha, samadhi, it's like charging your battery. The mind will have more energy to be in the world. So the more you practice, you will have more energy to be in the world too. And when the mind become an over, you can cultivate wisdom. So to practice is not lost. You can help with everyday's life too. When Luangpor was a lay person, when he was working at the table, there were executives were standing next to Luangpor. Luangpor was pressured to type in documents. They were waiting for the documents to be done. When Luangpor's working, he didn't see anyone else. Luangpor's mind was concentrated on his work. So Luangpor's work came out very well. He was concentrated on the work, on the data. So he could see the problem, he could see the cause of the problem, and he could see the solutions, and he could propose a solution to his boss. These can come out from samadhi. So samadhi can help you in the world too. And then the more you practice, the more you will have more energy. And the more energy, you can also use that to cultivate wisdom. There was one person, he was an architecture. He was Luangpor Put's student. He was hired to design a very complex building, very detailed. He couldn't find the way to design the building. And then he took a nap, and then the mind saw when the mind was awakened. And then when the mind was awakened, he was able to design this integrated building. So keep practicing and you can live in the world more happier. Next number, I'm practicing formally and in everyday's life. For formal practice, I do the walking and sitting practice. And in everyday's life, I try to observe my mind during the day, just as you suggested. Please give me advice if I'm on the right track. Luangpor replied, you are on the right track. Keep doing it. And you will see when the noble mind arises, the noble mind will see and the wisdom will arise, and you will see if there are any improvement, any mistakes you can do. Your mind is very well. Your mind is light. Your mind is diligent. Your mind can cultivate wisdom very well. And your mind is quite equanimous. Now you are on the right track. You just have to do it enough. Very good. It's like a fruit. Now it's just waiting to be ripened. We cannot hurry the ripening. We just let it ripen naturally. Now that you are on the right track, you just have to collect more wisdom. And then the enlightenment will arise on its own. You cannot order the mind to be enlightened. Enlightenment will arise itself when you have cultivate enough sati and wisdom, and then the mind will let go. You don't have to hurry up. You don't have to feel like that you have to enlighten soon. If you are greedy, if you have wanting, the enlightenment will not happen. Next, number 63. I do the walking meditation. I say the mantra at night. Am I still on the right track? When you practice, you see that when your mind is over-focusing, see that the mind is still. Now your mind is lost in thoughts, lost in the questions. See that. When your mind is calm and still, that means you are over-focusing. Let the mind work naturally. Don't try to press the mind to keep it still. Let the mind go to see, to hear, and see the changes in your mind. Now when you hear Luangpor's words and you have questions arising in your mind, know that your mind is lost in thought, lost in the questions. See that. Now you are a little stuck in over-focusing because you want to practice, you want to understand, you want to be something. The more you over-focus, the wisdom cannot arise. See, when you want to practice, just know so. Just know the wanting, know the craving. When you see that, the over-focusing will decrease, it will go away. Just keep noticing your mind. The more when the craving arises, know so. Next, number 82. About 2 weeks ago, I felt like I was lost in the object that arises and falls. When I see that I'm not so attached to things that arise and fall too much anymore. Your weak point is that your mind is busy. You have to do more formal practice. Walking, sitting practice, or say the mantra every day. Keep practicing until you're more experienced when you do formal practice. Do you see that your mind is lost in thought right now? Now your mind is even more lost in thoughts because you're like, oh, how am I lost? So it's lost on top of lost in thoughts. Now your mind is better than before. It's lighter. Let the mind work. Don't try to control it. Now you don't have enough samadhi, you have to do more formal practice. So increase samadhi, increase the formal practice. Next, number 90. I've been listening to your the YouTube video of your Dharma talk for 1 year with my mom who passed away from cancer. Now I try to practice and would like to give all my merit to my mom. And I would like to ask Luangpor to give me advice. Luangpor replied, you are on the right track, but don't be greedy that you will gain something. And then you will see the changes in yourself. You will make a good progress and on the right track, and keep going on it. Don't hurry yourself. The more you hurry, the less you'll make progress. The enlightenment will arise on its own. And don't worry about your mom. So every time you practice and you earn merit, you can think about your mom and give the merit to your mom. If you think about people who already passed away, your minds will be linked. But Luangpor do not recommend for you to get connected with a disease. But you can think of the disease, your loved ones, and give them merit. So you have to have a merit mind for you to give merit. Next, the last one, number 163. I've been listening to Luangpor CDs for 3 years. I've been doing the formal practice using different objects. Now I use saying mantra, giving love and kindness. I keep changing the object. Please give me advice. What should I do? The mind that is used to one object, doesn't matter if you change to the other object. When the mind is calm, the mind will return to the object that the mind prefers. So your mind prefer observing your body. So Luangpor recommend that you go back to observe your body. You don't have to keep changing the objects to practice. If you keep changing the objects to practice, the mind will be busy. You can use another object for a few minutes at the beginning for the mind to feel peace, to feel more energetic, and then go back to observing the body. You see the body breathing in, you'll see that it's only temporarily. It's not difficult to observe. Don't think too much. And lower your ego. Keep observing simply and naturally. This is all, right? This is all. So please, so now you can go home. Now you can go home before it starts to rain.